What's up everyone? Welcome back to Super Carmio. Today we're finally getting back into the swing of things by doing some work on the MK4 GTI. But before we get started, I just want to wish all of you Happy New Year, as well as let you know that we have achieved a pretty big milestone for me. We have surpassed 1,000 subscribers. So I just want to thank each one of you for subscribing and following me as I've done all these journeys with all these cars. So thanks again, it really means a lot to me, and I'm really excited to see where this channel goes from here. So like I said before, we are going to be doing some work on the MK4 GTI. We're going to be catching up on some yearly maintenance, which includes flushing out the coolant, putting in brand new coolant temp sensor. We'll also be changing the transmission fluid, as well as installing new spark plugs. So at the end of this, we should have a pretty happy car. Let's get started. Alright, so we're going to get started by raising the car up and draining the coolant. The best way I found is just by disconnecting the lower radiator hose, but let's get in the air and on some jack stands. Alright, we'll start by releasing tension from this clip and removing this lower radiator hose, and then letting the coolant drain. We'll also remove the reservoir cap so that it drains faster. And while that's still draining, we'll take out this clip so that we could remove the coolant temp sensor. Once you take that clip off, it should just pop right off, as you can see. Alright, with your coolant temp sensor, there should be an O-ring on it. Since this one doesn't, that means that it was still in the housing. So it looks like this, so you do want to remove that. The new coolant temp sensor should come with a replacement O-ring. Then we'll get our new coolant temp sensor, make sure our O-ring is seated, and we'll put it back in the flange, and then we'll use a clip to hold it in place. Alright, now we'll reinstall our lower radiator hose. Alright, well that's good to go. Alright, now we're going to fill our system back up with coolant. This is some G12 Plus equivalent antifreeze. This is concentrated, so you will have to dilute it with some distilled water. So I'm going to do equal parts distilled water to equal parts G12 Plus, and then fill up our reservoir to the max line, turn the car on and let it idle without the cap, and we'll just let it do its thing. And then after that, we'll just top it off if we need to. Alright, and here's the final solution. It should have a nice pinkish purple color to it. Alright, well the new coolant is good to go. I am going to keep a container of that premixed coolant with me the next few days just to make sure the level is still good and top it off as needed. Now before we could put the car back on the ground, we are going to change out the transmission fluid. We're going to be installing some fresh Redline MT90 fluid. Alright, so let's get back under there and get rid of this old transmission fluid. Alright, so the drain plug for the transmission is this 17mm hex bit right here. Now I always emphasize this, but especially with a daily, you do want to make sure you could remove the fill plug first. So again, this is also 17mm hex bit. To get access to this fill plug a little bit easier, you can remove this 13mm bolt that's holding up this, I believe it's a power steering line cooler. Oh, it's on here pretty good. But as you can see, we can loosen it. So now that we know that's good, we will loosen this drain plug and get a bucket. And drain our fluid. Alright, now that our fluid is drained, we are going to use a fluid pump to get about 2 quarts of this Redline transmission fluid in. So you are going to want to use a GL4 spec fluid, and you are going to fill it up until it starts seeping out of the fill hole, which, like I said, is about 2 quarts. Alright, another item off the list. At this point, we could put the car back down on the ground and get ready to change out the spark plugs. Alright, so here are the new plugs. These are BKR7Es. They're copper and they're 1 heat range colder than stock. So for applications such as this, where we have bolt-ons and a new tune with higher boost, you're going to want that. So we're going to gap these to 0.028 and then install them. For setting the gap, I like using the feeler gauge, which pretty much has a ton of blades that have different size options, and we're going with 0.028 or 0.7 millimeters, and we'll just verify the gap. And make sure it's not too big, so I'll go up the next size, and if it's too big, I'll close it down a little bit. And now I'll torque each one of these spark plugs to 19 foot-pounds and reinstall the coil pack. Alright, well that's going to do it for today's episode. We have new coolant, a new coolant temp sensor, fresh transmission fluid, as well as new spark plugs. So this GTI should be sitting pretty happy right now. If you're new here, please consider subscribing and pressing that like button. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.